So I just got finished with Simon, my final session, session 2. It was another 6.5 hour day on Zoom, sitting down for most of it. I had to get up, shake it out, stand up for a little bit. I had a couple breaks, very short breaks, but I just wanted to update you. Lots of information. Went through, again, the whole process of using the 14-step process spreadsheet to pretty much determine rehab costs, max bid, what our property is worth, and then, of course, what our profit is going to be. So those 4 key indicators. And I'm just going to look at my notes here to give you a little bit of a summary. Big thing, understand the rules of the game. That was just reinforced so many times. That is where the ULS is just priceless, because it gives you the nuts and bolts, and then you can go to the county and dig into their brochures to tell you even more about how their auctions work. Let's see here. Great things to know. When you're looking at liens and encumbrances, you are looking for IRS and HOA together, or IRS and city liens. And of those are the 3 that IRS, HOA, city, those are the 3 that we really need to worry about as tax deed investors. And the wonderful thing is the IRS liens, all you have to do is just wait that 120 days, and then they can go after by filling out a form, the overage amount, and get what's owed to them. Of course, the HOA in a lot of states, their lien doesn't stand after the tax deed. And some they do. And so you just have to make sure you know. And even if they don't stand, they can create a lot of legal costs for you by going after and saying, yes, you do owe us. And then your attorney says, no, you don't. And they say, yes, you do. And no, you don't. And then back and forth. And before you know it, you've contributed $500 to legal fees. And that is absolutely not what we want to do. And so what we can do after we buy the deed, we do see that there's an HOA lien. We can contact the HOA and we can just offer our suggestion of how they can come back through a form to the county to get what is owed to them. And that way we can kind of be friends with them and get them off of kind of our back before they get on our back. Let's see, Florida, man, that is like a key because of all the retirees. So everyone goes there to retire and ends up dying, and then sometimes their estate is caught up in probate and no one can pay the taxes, or they don't know about it, and all of a sudden, taxes are due, they're not paid, and then there you have a tax or lien certificate and deed scenario, and then we enter this situation. It's called the land of opportunity as far as Florida goes in tax deeds. Let's see here. Did you know that the tax deed amount, like the opening bid, is negotiable in Texas? Like back taxes and interest, like negotiable? Like who would have thought? Another thing is really commit, and this I mentioned before, really commit to chunking out your work schedule every day, every week, every month, knowing and committing to those times like it's a job, like it's a business, not a hobby. And the bigger thing is figuring out how to remove the distractions instead of figuring out how to implement a new habit, right? We gotta, we do need to implement a new habit, but the biggest thing is how to remove the distractions, because that's going to be the thing that chokes us out. Let's see here. Let's see. Most important when we're doing our CMA, not our appraisal, but trying to figure out what comps are closest to ours, so we can get a really good idea of what its ARV is after rehab value, And the most important is the time. Like when other properties sold near ours within half mile, like the soonest sale, like time is the most important. And then next is the square foot. Is it close to our square footage within plus or minus 15%? And then is it close in bed bath numbers? And that is the lowest on the list. Most important being the time sold. You know, if it was 2 years ago, that's not going to be a good comp. So, and in Florida, who knew? Best time when the snowbirds are there, January through, what was that? June through May, January through May. So if you try to sell like September, you're not going to get as high of a price if you wait. That was interesting to know. Lots of time on the spreadsheet in Florida, going through and doing it, the 14 steps, start to finish, getting the comps, figuring out the rehab, getting the question of, okay, are we over estimating rehab costs? And when we overestimate rehab costs, that lowers our max bid. And are we potentially losing properties, losing the winning bid on auctions because our numbers aren't correct? And then you think, if we really make it low, make our numbers low, and we misestimate, and there are actually higher costs to rehab, so we end up making no money, then we're spending all this time rehabbing this house and selling it and making no funds, right? And so our money's tied up, our time's tied up, our emotions and attention are tied up, and we're getting nothing. That's not wise. Like Simon said, I'd rather be on a hammock than to do a deal that nets me no profit. And I agree. Oh boy, let's see here. We moved on to looking at land in Florida and looking at those improved lots. The biggest thing is in your area where you have the lots, are there houses like right next door, front, back, side? Like those are going to be that fully improved, making sure that those utilities are in. So you have the sewer and water, and you have electrical, and those are important to have those run. That's going to create more demand and higher price for your land. Obviously, you don't have to do a lot of the other things in land that you have to do with houses, like you don't have to take a photo to make sure your structure didn't burn down. You don't have to board up and secure your property because no squatters are, it's just land, right? I mean, I guess someone could build a tent on it. Let's see here. Yeah, went through some of the states asking Simon, hey, what do you think about this state? What do you think is more of an investor friendly? Knowing my scenario, where do you think I should start? And so he gave me some tips on that. And then he also went through the preliminary title search, doing that official record search online, showing me how to essentially pull my own title and look what kind of liens and encumbrances may be attached to the property before I even buy it. And so we went through that. That was interesting. The example that we picked, or he picked, man, we had a couple foreclosures, a couple properties, and in the same county. And so they had quite the list. They had a lot going on, for sure. We talked about the certificate auctions in Florida and how the hedge companies will come in there, and it's a bid down the interest state, and so they will come down and they will bid the interest down from 18 down to 0. They will actually bid these certs down to 0 because they get the 5% penalty. And they just, for all of us little investors, 5% is just, it's really not worth having our money tied up, to get 2 cents after 21 years. So they kind of corner the market, those big hedge funds, which is a couple major banks. But they're not in the deed market, in the deed auction market, because it takes so much time to actually, like, you can't automate this research. It takes so much time, and they're in it for the 5%, and that's what they can allocate time-wise, and hey, is there a structure on it, and we're good to go. And so we still have quite the advantage as small investors to go into the deed auctions in Florida and actually be able to make a living. So that was exciting. We talked about Indiana and the commissioner sales, and Simon, his favorite, it seems to be his favorite phrase is what rocks your socks. And that just means like what fires you up, what gets you excited, what jazzes you up. And he's like, do that. Like, there's so many different avenues with tax lien and deed investing. Like, do what, everything from sending out postcards in regards to deeds that got sold at the auction bought by someone else, but you can still contact the owner, the previous owner, right, who is probably still in the property, and get them to quit claim, and then you redeem. Anyway, there's so many different little nuances and little niches inside of this industry that, like he said, find out what rocks your socks and do that. Let's see here. What else? So he just encouraged me to be patient. He knows that I have some assets to deploy, and he said, just prove the market or prove the model. That's another phrase throughout this 2-day session, these 2-day sessions. He's like, take 10% of your portfolio, use that for right now, and get these properties cash flowing. And then once you've gone through that and got them cash flowing, then you can take another percentage of your portfolio and buy and get those properties cash flowing. Prove the model by getting the money back into the bank. And that's so wise. It's so easy to be like, oh, I'm just going to buy everything. And then all of a sudden you have all these assets. You're asset rich and you're cash flow poor. And then you're like, what did I just do? And then what if the model doesn't get proven? And so he was just real wise to encourage me, which very sweet. He did remind me that I have the time, the money, the energy. I have the intellect. I'm computer savvy, and I have that drive to pull the trigger. And that I have the courage also to pull that trigger. And that is another element that really needs to be done for an investor to be successful. You have to be able to pull the trigger. And then at that point, now you have a mess to clean up, and you can be creative and figure out how to navigate through that. So that's all I got. I'm tired. I'm going to relax. So see ya.